Sitting at the restaurant table, I heard my grandson talk about the $8,000 he had been sending me, and something inside me trembled. I had always thought my son helped with a modest amount, about $1,000 a month, and when my grandson said he was sending me $8,000 every month, I was stunned. It was as if an invisible shadow began to reveal itself, showing that maybe I didn't know everything that was going on in my own family. Sometimes when we think we know the people we love, reality surprises us by uncovering secrets that seem distant but are actually very close. This situation made me realize the importance of paying attention to the small details in everyday life, because they reveal big truths. How many times in our lives do we overlook subtle signs, like bank statements, disconnected conversations, or changes in behavior? For example, back then I didn't notice the signals pointing to a bigger problem, something that would only show up when the numbers started to be revealed. It's a call for all of us to practice observation and questioning, even when everything seems calm. It's amazing how a simple conversation can open a door to new understanding, and that's where an unexpected journey begins. That lunch, which seemed like just another family gathering, turned into the starting point to uncover what was being hidden. And that first discovery was only the beginning of what was to come, a path full of challenges and revelations that would change everything. Have you ever faced a moment like that, where the truth suddenly comes out and there's no turning back? Before we continue, leave a comment telling me where you're watching from and subscribe to the channel Vintage Revenge Stories. We're building a community of amazing women who know that our best chapters can happen at any age. Now back to the story. Reaching 68 years old and finding yourself counting pills like they were treasures reveals a struggle many prefer to hide. I understand this feeling well. Choosing between the day's food and heart medicine turns every decision into a kind of emotional juggling act. It's like walking a tightrope where one wrong step can throw everything off balance. And it's not just about money. It's about dignity, about maintaining the minimum needed to survive with some comfort and self-respect. Working part-time at a grocery store to pay basic bills seemed like a temporary solution at the time, but it became a routine. The physical effort combined with mental fatigue creates a weariness that goes beyond the body. It reaches the soul. Imagine having to manage every penny as if it were the only currency in the world, knowing that an emergency could brutally change that equation. This reality is much closer to us than we think, and facing it is an invitation to empathy and conscious action. Even with my son's monthly help, I felt life was a constant survival game, where balance was fragile and threatened every moment. This scenario could be a mirror for many families silently struggling without anyone noticing. Perhaps the key lies in learning to recognize these signs and, when possible, acting to prevent despair from becoming routine. But little did I know that this daily fight was far from the only battle I would face. Going 2 days without the medicine that kept my heart stable was a costly mistake, and I paid the price right there in the aisle of the store where I worked. While restocking shelves, my body just couldn't hold on, and the fainting spell was a brutal warning that something was wrong. It's a clear sign that when we neglect our health due to financial reasons, we risk everything, even what we value most, our own life. Waking up in the hospital, reality hit hard. The lack of proper treatment had brought my health to a critical point, and the scare was a wake-up call to reassess my priorities. No one is immune to this, and what happened to me could be happening to someone you know. It's a harsh but necessary reminder of how much we need to take care of ourselves, even when life seems to be closing in on all sides. This experience taught me that health cannot be put on the back burner, even in financial hardship. Sometimes you have to ask for help, seek alternatives like public clinics, social programs, or community groups that can offer support. Recognizing our vulnerability is the first step to rebuilding not only the body but also hope for better days. A lesson that prepared me for what was yet to come. At the hospital, as I tried to gather myself, I couldn't help but notice the shiny new car Danny was driving. A stark contrast to the image I had of him years ago. That appearance, so different from what I knew, seemed to challenge everything he said about his financial struggles. It's amazing how people sometimes hide the truth behind appearances, and it was precisely that contradiction that made me even more alert. He spoke of difficulties, but his possessions told a different story. A story full of luxury and comfort that didn't match the hardships he claimed. This dissonance made me question how many times in life we allow ourselves to be fooled by words that don't match actions. It's a warning to all of us. What people say isn't always what's really happening. Paying attention to details, like cars, houses, clothes, can reveal much more than casual conversation. This discovery made me think about how many families live parallel realities, where truth hides behind social masks and appearances. And the strangest thing is that sometimes we only notice these things when something forces us to look more carefully, like that moment at the hospital. It was a clear sign that there was more to discover, something that couldn't be ignored for long. It was during a casual chat with my neighbor that everything really started to click. That car Danny was driving was worth almost as much as he claimed to be sending me every month just to survive. Imagine the feeling of counting every penny to pay basic bills, while just across the street someone lives in luxury without worry. That disparity deeply disturbed me, as if an invisible injustice was being unveiled right before my eyes. While I was denying myself essentials and controlling every expense to keep the minimum, he enjoyed a comfortable life and spent on frivolous things. That discovery brought a restlessness I couldn't shake. The doubt about where that money was really going and what was the true reason for so much secrecy. It's like feeling a crucial piece of the puzzle is missing but not knowing exactly which one. That discomfort drove me to investigate more, to seek answers to what seemed like a family mystery, almost a game of hide and seek with the truth. Because when something doesn't add up, when the accounts don't close, our instincts call us to act, to go beyond appearances and face what's hidden. And that was exactly what prepared me for the next step of this journey. My grandson Alex has always been the light of my days, a pride I carried in my heart and a love that filled every emptiness. When he moved to Dubai, it felt like the world had become too big for our meetings and talks. The calls, which used to be constant and full of laughter, became more and more rare, leaving a subtle, almost invisible emptiness, but very real, in my daily routine. My son said Alex was always busy, caught up in the fast-paced life of a big city, and I understood even though it hurt. It's curious how physical distance can create a silence full of unasked questions, a feeling that shows up in the little moments, like a lonely breakfast, quiet afternoons, and even the sound of the house seeming to echo louder. That absence became a constant presence, a gentle reminder of what I wanted most. That longing taught me the value of shared time and sincere attention, something many of us only realize when distance enters our lives. And it's in that space between meetings that the desire to rebuild bridges is born, to find ways to be present even when we can't be physically close. But along that path, even more discoveries were waiting for me. On every special occasion, I spent time and love preparing gifts for Alex, choosing every detail as if I were there with him. But there was a shadow of doubt following me. Did he really receive what I sent? That uncertainty grew with every card that arrived with my son's handwriting, not his, leaving the impression that something deeper was happening, a distance beyond geography. Imagine the feeling of sending a gift full of affection and, instead of the expected reply, receiving a message written by someone else. A cruel reminder that the connection was being mediated, maybe even blocked. That situation made me think about how often in life we put our trust in the hands of others and wonder if our love and effort really reach the right place. It's a silent pain few can understand. That constant doubt was like an open wound, a question pushing me to find answers and better understand the invisible barriers between me and my grandson. And in that search, more secrets began to surface, preparing the ground for revelations that would change everything. On Thanksgiving Eve, when I least expected it, the doorbell rang, and when I opened the door, there was Alex, my grandson, right there in front of me with no warning. It was as if time stopped for a moment, and my heart filled with a mix of emotions, surprise, and a joy I didn't know I could still feel so intensely. That moment revealed the power of connections that time and distance cannot erase. He seemed successful, with a confident posture and an appearance that showed life had given him opportunities, but his eyes carried a genuine concern for my condition and how I looked. That's when I realized that despite the success and distance, the bond that connects us was still alive and beating, even if it had gone through ups and downs. That visit brought not only comfort but also the urgency to reassess how we were living our lives. This unexpected surprise opened doors for necessary conversations and revelations that would change the dynamic between us. It felt like that meeting was a turning point, an invitation to deepen bonds and resolve unresolved issues. Little did I know that this visit was just the beginning of a much bigger story about to unfold. As we talked, the past surfaced like a gentle breeze refreshing the soul, bringing memories of simple yet meaningful moments that truly united us. I heard Alex fondly recall the values he learned from me, especially the importance of reaching out to those in need, lessons I always carried with me and now saw blossoming in him. Those words awakened in me a quiet pride, the kind of emotion that warms the heart and strengthens family ties. It's incredible how memories have the power to reconnect us, to rescue feelings that time and distance sometimes try to erase. Sharing those memories made me realize that despite the ups and downs, what really matters are the principles we leave as a legacy and the strength of love that keeps us together, even when life tries to pull us apart. This deep exchange is an invitation for each of us to reflect on what truly matters in our relationships. These conversations revealed that even in the storms, we can find safe harbor in the bonds built with love and respect. And it was in that moment I felt we were ready to face together what was still to come. A new chapter promising to transform our lives in unexpected ways. When Alex told me that his father said I didn't want to be bothered by phone calls, a silent alarm went off inside me. That excuse didn't sound true, and for the first time I sensed there was a story being manipulated far beyond my reach. It's amazing how sometimes the truth hides between the lines of what we're told, and it's up to us to pay attention to start unraveling what lies behind the words. Despite growing suspicion, at that moment I chose not to confront it, preferring to value my grandson's presence, this thread of light that had appeared in my life. It's a difficult choice but often necessary, knowing when to keep silence to preserve temporary peace while the truth reveals itself in its own time. That pause allowed me to strengthen our connection, even though my mind remained alert, questioning what was yet to come. That moment of closeness opened space for a clearer perception, as if the fog was beginning to lift and I could gradually see beyond appearances and empty words. I knew that conversation was just the start of a larger process, an invitation to keep investigating and understand what was really going on in my family. When my grandson opened my nearly empty fridge, it was impossible not to notice the concern that took over his face. That scene, with shelves almost bare and leftovers barely enough for a day, seemed to shock him deeply. He couldn't understand how someone he loved so much could live with so little, without proper food or the medicines she desperately needed to stay healthy. It was a silent portrait of my daily struggle, invisible to most. I tried to explain with a heavy heart that I always buy what I can, that each purchase is a victory against scarcity. But he knew my words weren't enough to hide the harsh reality. That empty fridge was more than an image. It was a symbol of constant sacrifice and the difficulty of maintaining the basics. I thought of how many people face this silently and how this experience teaches us about resilience and inner strength. It was a revealing moment for both of us because it showed that even with differences and distance, love and concern can open doors to deeper understanding. And that silent shock was just the beginning of what my grandson and I would face together, uncovering truths and rebuilding ties that seemed fragile but had deep roots. When my grandson Alex invited me to a fancy dinner, I felt a mix of surprise and gratitude fill my heart. There he was, a successful man who suddenly seemed determined to take care of me in a way I had never experienced before. He dressed me carefully as if preparing a queen for a special night, and assured me that this occasion wouldn't be just a celebration but a milestone in our lives. That gesture made me realize how love can show up in simple but powerful acts. At the same time, I couldn't hide the anxiety tightening my chest, the old doubt about what that night would bring, new and unexpected. It's natural to feel this mix of emotions when about to step into an unknown chapter of our story, where hopes and fears blend. After all, it's hard to fully open up when the past still weighs on your shoulders, and the future is unfamiliar territory calling you to take a risk. That invitation was more than just a dinner. It was a sign that something was changing, that there was a real chance for rebuilding and hope. It was a moment to open my heart, to let love and renewal guide our steps, even if there were still unanswered questions in the air. Little did I know that night would be just the beginning of a deep transformation we were about to live through. In the middle of that dinner, between plates and conversations, Alex asked a question that changed everything. He asked his father about the money he claimed to send to take care of me. The silence that followed was heavy, like a dark cloud about to burst. When the truth came out, my own son stealing most of that money for years, I felt as if the ground had opened beneath my feet. It was a betrayal so deep words can't describe. That discovery cut deeper than any financial hardship I had ever faced. I had fought with all my strength to pay for my medicines, to buy food, while someone who was supposed to care for me was taking advantage of my vulnerability. It's a silent pain, a wound that hurts so much because it comes from someone you trust and love. That night, I understood that the real battle wasn't just against scarcity but against the disloyalty eating away at the foundation of my family. As hard as it was, that revelation woke me up to a new reality. One where I needed to be stronger, more attentive, and more careful about whom I trusted with my truths. And that was only the gateway to face a path full of hard decisions and unexpected discoveries that would change the course of my life forever. When we left the restaurant, the tension that had been building exploded inevitably. Alex, overwhelmed with indignation, loudly exposed my son's theft, not caring about the curious glances of the customers around us. His words cut through the air like a blade, revealing a truth that could no longer be hidden. There, in front of everyone, the mask fell, and the fragile facade of excuses crumbled within seconds. My son tried to justify himself, throwing out empty phrases as if desperately seeking solid ground where there was none left. But no argument could erase years of neglect and lies. For the first time, I felt I didn't have to carry that burden alone. Alex's courage was like a shield, protecting me from a pain I had been silently bearing. That was the moment I discovered the power of saying, "I don't want to hear it." Those 3 simple words became my boundary, my defense against any manipulation attempts. Accepting Alex's support, I felt as if I could finally breathe after years underwater. And, unknowingly, that moment planted the seeds of a fresh start that would change the course of my life. That very night, after emotions calmed down, Alex sat with me and spoke with the firmness of someone who had already made up his mind. He told me everything he had found out, leaving no detail out, and said he wouldn't allow me to live another day fearing there wouldn't be food or medicine. There was in his tone a mix of outrage and care, as if every word was a brick building a different future for me. Alex revealed he was already moving nearby and wanted me to live with him, not as a burden, but as someone who deserved security, comfort, and respect. It was an offer that felt like a hug, one you receive not only with your body but also with your soul. After years balancing bills like walking on the edge of a cliff, that possibility seemed almost like a dream. For the first time in a long while, I felt I could let my guard down. I wouldn't have to choose between health and food anymore or count coins as if guarding drops of dignity. Alex's plan wasn't just about logistics or housing, it was about giving back peace, freedom, and a life I had long learned to live without. When I arrived at Alex's house, I felt like I was stepping into another world. It was a bright, spacious place, filled with little details that showed how much he had thought about me. There were fresh flowers on the table, a room just for me with a soft quilt, and even a chair by the window for reading. It wasn't just a roof over my head. It was proof that someone cared enough to create a home for me. Alex made sure to prepare everything so I could have independence while still never lacking affection. He installed grab bars in the bathroom, organized my medicines into little boxes, and taught me how to use the new electric oven. And between laughs, I returned the favor by teaching simple things filled with love, like how to make scrambled eggs creamy and just right, or the tea recipe I always used to calm my heart. It was as if every day was a silent exchange of gifts. He gave me security and I gave him living memories. This new stage wasn't just about material comfort but about rebuilding bonds, creating new memories, and realizing that love, when nurtured, can heal deep wounds. Even with the weight of betrayal still aching in my memory, I noticed the wound beginning to heal. There was something freeing in knowing my son could no longer hurt me. That chapter of fear and insecurity was behind me. It was like closing a door that had creaked open for years, letting in cold, and finally locking the key. Alex was firm in his decision. He cut all contact with his father not out of blind anger but for protection. He understood that sometimes, to preserve what we love, we need to create distance from what harms us. It was painful, yes, but also an act of unconditional love. And every gesture from him reinforced that for the first time in a long time, I was surrounded by genuine care. Now, my life boils down to waking up knowing I'm in a safe place, next to someone who truly wants the best for me. I don't have to prove my worth anymore or fight to be a priority. This peace, quiet but powerful, gives me strength to move forward and believe that even after the hardest storms, there's always a dawn waiting. This story carries marks of pain and disappointment, but also brings a breath of hope, love, and justice. It's a portrait of how, even in the closest relationships, trust can be broken, and how sometimes it takes courage to rebuild your own life. What I lived isn't a distant tale. It's something that can happen in any family, and maybe that's why so many people see themselves in it. But now I want to turn the focus to you. How far does forgiveness go when betrayal comes from someone we love? Is it fair to cut ties to protect those precious to us, even if it means breaking with family? These questions don't have easy answers, and maybe that's why they're so necessary. Share your thoughts in the comments. I want to hear your perspective. And if this story made you reflect, like the video and subscribe to the channel to follow more real and intense stories like this one. Because in the end, every story is a chance to see life with new eyes.